hold on. How has the business changed? Like, for example, when you started 17 years ago, we all know because we hear it constantly that the business is changing, the business is changing, the business is changing. Um, what would you say is the way it was when you began, and how has it changed, and what is the state of the business as far as management is concerned and building young artists internationally? How has it changed now? What is the state of it today, would you say?
I think uh, it's been a big change from when I started. I think that one of the well, there are two big changes. I think one of them is media,
Hmm.
and how media is now differently important. Um, and it's much more international, and it's much more about the visual than about the audio or the oral. And in the past, I was speaking from a North American perspective. We would have on the public television station 3 or 4 times a year a broadcast from the Met that was taped and edited and all. And it was the pictures, the views were a few cameras, and you would see big screen, big shots. Now
I remember, yeah.
is very up close, high definition, uh, directed within an inch of its life, both from a sound point and a visual point. So the audience viewer is told what he or she sees by a director or producer. So, and everything's available online. So from a media standpoint, it's much more, um, sadly, it's about what it looks like and not about what it sounds like, which ties into the second part of what I've noticed in terms of the big changes is exactly that it's about what it looks like much more now than it ever has been. And
Hmm.
um, sadly, that there are very that an additional hardship for an opera singer who wants to make it on the international stage and have a significant career, if that's an aspiration, is that there is so much pressure on what you look like,
Hmm.
and in addition to what you sound like. But I dare say that some of the people that came along in the past, the great singers who were not uh, gifted with great looks or great physique, um, but who had great voices in the past, could have great careers. It's harder now for that to be possible.
Huh. But would you say, let's be honest here, not to be nasty, but would you say that it's harder or it's impossible? Do you think
It's
that it
harder,
is possible? Like, okay. And then,
but
what?
I think it's very challenging. And the flip side of that is that there are plenty of people, and I apologize for saying this, but there are plenty of people out there who are having major careers because of what they look like and not because of what they sound like.
Well, that's the truth. So then a question that just came up here, and then we'll get to some of the other ones that have been there, is it so looks are more important than sound, would you say?
No, I don't think that looks are more important than sound. I think that looks are more important than they used to be, and
Hmm.
that a performer who is a total package has a greater possibility for success today than in the past. I think that someone who takes care of his or her body, someone who um, has good acting abilities, someone who's a
Hmm.
good improviser, someone who maybe has a dance background. I mean, I think that
Yeah.
when as a manager, when we're looking at CVs of young singers or even older singers, on the special interests, after they list the credits of education and performance and languages and all this kind of stuff, I think that having a special interest or special abilities credit is very important. It can't be overlooked because, whether you have a background in tap dance or fencing or flamenco dancing or, whatever it is, I think that it's important to add because it's something that creates a complete profile or a more complete profile than what I, as an auditioner, would see or hear in 10 or 15 minutes of auditioning. And certainly, if one is going out for an audition, and it's hours and hours of an audition that a casting director is hearing, and every soprano walks on stage and sings her thing, and every tenor and every mezzo, having something that sets you apart and triggering an association is a plus. Is a plus that you can't overlook.
Yeah, an association. You mean a personal association with something?
Well, a personal association, or it could be anything from when I see a resume, and if the person has some sort of interesting special interest, I'll circle it and I'll remember, hey, he runs marathons, or she was a ballroom dancer. And listen, I'm a purist, so for me it still is all about the singing. But there are plenty of people that do want to know something special about the person, beyond what they look like and beyond what they sound like. I mean, going back to what I'm just looking at the notes on the chat on the side, what Natasha said, so looks are more important than sound. No. Going back, I just say that they're more important today than they were 15 years ago or 50 years ago.
So a couple things to follow up with that. One, with these special skills, to speak, that you're talking about, where is a good place to highlight those? Where is a good place to mention those?
Well, I think that if you're talking about a resume or a CV. Let's not use the resume because a resume is in terms of a text-based document. That's more, Timmy Tenor was heard, is a graduate of the Juilliard School and studies with such and such teacher. He's sung this and rolls under, study or that and all this kind of stuff. But in terms of a CV, an actual, I'll block out the person's name, but something that looks like